Good evening, Channel Surfers. It's Lauren from Remote Reality. I hope you guys are having a fantastic Wednesday night. What a day. What a day for exciting court stuff. We had the Kohberger change of plea. If you haven't seen that, look at our content. I've got it all on there. I recapped that plea. Fascinating stuff. And now we are on to the Diddy verdict. I got finished with work today, looked at my phone. I was like, holy crap, we are 20 minutes into the Kohberger stuff and Diddy's got a verdict. I got a lot of work to do tonight. So here we are. It's about 8 o'clock Eastern time. Just finished getting my Kohberger stuff out on all my platforms. Now, here we are with the Diddy, and we're just going to do a real quick recap.
Remote reality, yeah, that's the key. Unlocking stories wild and free. With the host, side by side. Channel surfers, let's ride.
So this weekend, I did talk a little bit about the jury going out. I said they're probably going to want to get out of there before the 4th of July. I think we are going to see a verdict next week, probably a little later in the week. We've got some complicated charges from the very beginning. I have talked about how this racketeering act charge was untraditional. It was a strange charge to bring, kind of like fitting a square peg into a round hole. I expressed concern about this charge from the very beginning, and the jury seemed to agree. They did not find proof beyond a reasonable doubt that there was a criminal enterprise that Diddy was engaged in to do sex trafficking. He is a domestic abuser. He is a violent person, but those were not the charges that were brought. And what we saw, the videotape of him abusing Cassie, that clearly he has done wrong, but that's not what he was being charged with. He was not being charged with domestic violence. He's being charged with RICO Act in a very unconventional way. Those are usually charges that are brought for like the mafia, like criminal enterprises that are engaged in criminal acts. So this was very unconventional, even from the beginning. But it wasn't all not guilty. As far as racketeering, that was the biggest charge out there. That was the one we were looking at life with. So in a sense, that was a win for the Diddy defense. And he apparently was on his knees in the courtroom when that was called out, just thankful. However, we did have 2 guilty verdicts. They're violations of the Mann Act. So what the jury found is that Diddy was transporting sex workers across state lines for sex acts, for illegal sex acts. Now, that's where we're able to do the prosecution in federal court because it is across state lines. It affects interstate commerce. It's not just one state. It's affecting multiple states within the U.S. That is our federal power to hear this case, our jurisdiction. So that's why we're able to do this in federal court, why we're able to hear it. And they found, yeah, he did that. He wasn't just paying these sex workers to hang out with them and, hey, if you want to have sex, let's have sex. He wasn't just paying for friends. Yeah, no brainer. Absolutely, jury got that right. So what is he facing? Each of these convictions carries up to a 10-year maximum sentence. Diddy has already served 9 months of whatever sentence he gets while he's been waiting on trial because he has been in jail. He has not been out on bond. And the judge denied bond even after this conviction. So he is still being held. So he will get credit for the time that he is in jail toward his sentence when he goes into prison. And jail time, it's easier than prison time. So he's going to get credit for that, at least 9 months. Now, I saw some articles, some news reports saying, oh, he's facing up to 20 years. True, but not likely. First of all, cumulatively, 20 years. 2 different charges with 10 years each. 10 plus 10, 20. Gotcha. But with criminal courts, your charges don't always run, or your sentences don't always run back to back. The court can have you run them either consecutively, which means back to back. This is what we saw in Kohberger today. Consecutive life sentence. He serves 1 life sentence, then you start serving the next one. I mean, in reality, you're serving 1, but maybe if there's reincarnation, he comes back and serves the next one. I digress. Or you can serve them concurrently, which means at the same time, which means while I am sitting in jail from March until September serving my charge for illegal gambling. I'm also getting credit toward the charge that I'm serving for possession of marijuana. It's still criminal in my state, or one of the few where it's not decriminalized. So let's just throw that one out there for not fun. Anyway, that would be concurrent. You're serving 2 charges on the same time. You're getting credit for both of them. So, could be 20 years. Probably not. It will run concurrently. You're going to get credit for time served. Also, you usually don't serve all of that sentence. Typically, it's 85%. It can be even less, but, time for good behavior. This isn't a without parole type of sentence. So, I don't think he's serving 10. Also, you have to look at prior offenses. Now, what will happen is we're going to go to sentencing on Diddy, and the defense is going to present any mitigating factors, whatever those may be. And they have to look at the charge that they have in front of them, which is transporting sex workers across state lines for prostitution. If you remember in the Karen retrial, just last, a couple of weeks ago, we saw something similar. We saw her exonerated for second-degree murder and convicted of driving under the influence. And when they did the sentencing hearing, same day, they were like, well, let's go. Let's get it done. The defense said, we just want the standard first-time offender for a DUI charge, nothing extra. And the prosecution said, fine by us. That's she, yes, she was charged with murder. She was not found guilty of that. We need to treat her like somebody that was convicted of a DUI and a DUI alone. Now, the violence that we've seen here, maybe that is a factor that goes into the consideration of how extreme the sentence will be. But what we're looking at is a crime where he's transporting prostitutes for sex work. We're not looking at a domestic violence, because that's not what was charged. That's exactly what we saw. They admit that during closing arguments and during the case. The defense admits that there was abuse, but that's not what was charged. It was racketeering and sex trafficking. Because he was not found guilty of the racketeering act and the sex trafficking, I don't know how much they're going to look at the abuse and the coercion side, because the jury found the state did not prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. So we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see what happens this sentencing hearing. All right. So that's our Diddy update. Like I said, prosecution, they're thinking under the federal sentencing guidelines, it should be maybe 2 years that he will serve. The state is saying they think it's going to be more like 4 to 5 years. This is his first conviction, I believe. But scratch that. It's been a long day. I'm going to have to go back and look at my notes. I do remember that there was that whole shooting where those charges got dropped at the nightclub. You guys, it's been a long day. It's been a long day. I'm on hour 12 right now, but I did want to get back to you with the Diddy verdict. Got the Kohberger stuff out there. I'm pretty wired on that. That was pretty crazy. I am just in disbelief. Sorry, gonna switch back to Kohberger. I am just in disbelief right now that they sat there and talked about the front license plates during that plea hearing. And they talked about the cell phone towers and how that doesn't put him at the house. Those are the 2 arguments I was making on TikTok a couple of weeks ago, and I made on this podcast like a month ago, and I was like, oh, let me put my stuff onto TikTok. Nobody else has mentioned the front license plates. That was me mentioning the front license plates. I'm like, who else said something about front license plates? I've got the moment in our Dateline podcast where Liz and I were like, Pennsylvania doesn't have front plates. And then they completely skipped over the part where I said, suspect vehicle 1 is not Kohberger's vehicle. So I am still trying to wrap my head around this. Who else was talking about the license plates? That was so strange. My husband said, did the defense ever bring that up? I was like, no. They were saying they're saying in their motion there was no exculpatory evidence in the Dateline episode when clearly there was, which I found and pointed out. So I'm like, who else is saying this? Where did they get this from? Somebody over there watching my TikToks. I post it and 2 weeks later they come out with a plea. Let me know who else is talking about the license plates, because they That was so weird. That was so weird that they were sitting there talking about how Pennsylvania does not have front plates. I digress. I am riled up on that. I haven't had much time to look into that. I haven't seen any of the post-hearing interviews. I want to know where they're coming up with that, because that was something Liz and I were sitting there and I was like, Liz, do you see that? Do you see that suspect vehicle one? That is an Idaho plate. And that whole part gets left out when the prosecution is talking about the recitation of facts. And then they start going on about how Pennsylvania does not have front plates. Why? Who else has been saying that? Where did this come from? Anyway, I digress. I've got to go to the internets and go searching for stuff because I want to see who else thinks like me. Because that's a fun place to be. It's a little wild, though. Maybe go get wild together. Anyway, thanks for watching Channel Surfers. I love you guys so much. This is so much fun covering all the true crime stuff. I'm so disappointed that we're not going to be covering the Kohberger trial, but we will be covering Kohberger sentencing on the 23rd, possibly the 24th. And when we find out when the sentencing comes for Diddy, we will cover that as well. And we're just going to keep our eye out for some more hot trials, some more fun true crime. So we will see you later this week on the 4th of July. We're going to drop our poop cruise for you. I have made that decision. You guys might be with family. You might need a little escape. So we're going to do the fun poop cruise on the 4th. Thank you for listening, Channel Surfers. Make sure you like and subscribe and do all the fun follower thingings. I'm out of here. Lauren needs a break. I've been going at it all day. And man, what a day. What a day for trial. Thanks for listening. Love you guys. See you soon.